For decades, scholars of Levantine archaeology have wrestled with a singular problem: correlating an ancient textual record with chaotic material data buried in the dirt. The geography of the ancient Middle East dictated strict rules for real estate. Survival depended on two non-negotiable assets: proximity to a freshwater source and defensibility against neighboring armies. This animation shows the results of those geographic constraints, the formation of a tell. When an invading army destroyed a city, survivors leveled the debris and rebuilt on the same footprint, creating an artificial, layered mound that grew taller over millennia. This image of Tel Beersheba illustrates the distinct physical signature of these settlements. You can see the artificial flat plateau and the excavated geometric grid, which contrast sharply with the natural rolling hills in the background. These layered mounds are the focus of a central debate in historiography, known as minimalism. The minimalist school argues that the 10th century monarchy of David and Solomon was a literary myth projected backward by later authors. Their argument hinges on empirical evidence. The layer of dirt corresponding to the 10th century lacks the monumental architecture required to prove the existence of a centralized state. To evaluate this low chronology hypothesis, we must interrogate the Iron Age stratigraphic and epigraphic data. We need to see how well the 10th century physical record aligns with the expectations of the minimalist Waddell. Field archaeology requires reading history vertically. Instead of moving chronologically from left to right, researchers move backward in time as they dig downward through the soil. Early 20th century excavations often treated these sites like construction zones, clearing vast amounts of debris quickly. Modern archaeology relies on precise, grid-based stratigraphy to isolate exactly which artifacts belong to which distinct era of settlement. Once a layer is isolated, field archaeologists lock in the timeline using typological dating. They trace the strict stylistic evolution of ceramic pottery over decades and corroborate those changes by carbon dating organic remains found in the same layer. Using these methods, archaeologists track a distinct macro-historical shift. The Late Bronze Age, characterized by Canaanite and Egyptian influence, collapses. In its wake, the Iron Age I and II periods emerge, representing the era of Israelite ascendancy in the hill country. Look at this layer, Iron Age II, roughly 1000 BC. This stratum is a central battleground. Low chronology scholars like Israel Finkelstein pull the dates of monumental finds out of the 10th century, reassigning them to the 9th century Omride dynasty. This image shows the scale of ancient stone gate structures, alongside the construction of multi-chambered entrances and deep horizontal water access tunnels that characterize these strata. If the low chronology framework is accurate, the 10th century stratum should be relatively empty. Large-scale fortifications leave an unmistakable physical footprint. Without that footprint, the argument for a 10th century kingdom lacks empirical support. But an empirical model is only as strong as its ability to absorb new data. An epigraphic discovery in northern Israel created significant structural friction for the minimalist timeline. In 1993, archaeologist Avraham Biron was excavating at Tel Dan when his team unearthed a shattered basalt stele, a stone monument bearing an ancient inscription. The text, written in Aramaic, is a victory monument. On it, an Aramaean king boasts of killing King Jehoram of Israel and a second monarch named Ahaziah. This graphic reconstruction highlights the exact characters that challenged long-standing minimalist assumptions. The inscription identifies the slain Ahaziah as a king of Beit David, the House of David. The discovery threatened the core premise of the low chronology model. Minimalist scholars attempted to retranslate the phrase, suggesting it referred to a house of the beloved or a house of a kettle. The linguistic evidence, however, points firmly away from those theories. Standard ancient Near Eastern epigraphic syntax routinely uses the house of founder format to reference rival dynastic kingdoms. To address the possibility of forgery, archaeologists rely on the concept of secondary usage. The original monument was broken apart in antiquity, and a surviving fragment was repurposed as a load-bearing stone in a later wall. Because Biron's team found this fragment buried securely under undisturbed debris inside the ancient city gate wall, its antiquity is verified by its physical context. This piece of basalt forces an empirical concession. If a foreign enemy recognized the House of David as a political entity in the 9th century, it implies that the dynastic state originated in the 10th century. Beyond epigraphic evidence, we must look at macro-architecture in the most heavily debated archaeological zone in the world, Jerusalem. The minimalist claim suggests that 10th century Jerusalem was a small, unfortified highland village, lacking the infrastructure of a regional capital. That baseline was challenged by Eilat Mazar's excavations in the city of David, where she uncovered the remains of the large stone structure. This image captures the depth and complexity of the stone pit foundations and retaining walls at Mazar's site. The scale here points to a centralized administrative design inconsistent with a small village. Architectural data from other sites provides further counter-evidence. West of Jerusalem, the site of Khirbet Qeiyafa offers concrete physical data from the same era. As shown in this image, Khirbet Qeiyafa features extensive building foundations outlining a structured settlement. Excavators uncovered fortified casemate walls and an unusual dual gate system. The presence of a fortified administrative outpost like Qeiyafa, carbon dated strictly to 1000 BC, provides physical friction against the assertion of an empty 10th century. The accumulation of this data requires us to examine the philosophical shift in interpreting archaeological finds. This portrait shows William F. Albright, who championed the biblical archaeology approach. Albright and his contemporaries actively used the text of the Bible to interpret the dirt directly. Decades later, scholars like William Dever initiated a shift towards Syro-Palestinian archaeology. This methodology intentionally decoupled the analysis of material culture from the biblical text. This pivot forced the discipline to treat pottery, stratigraphy, and physical artifacts as independent data streams, ensuring they were analyzed on their own merits. But while the methodology evolved, the physical evidence remains. The 10th century casemate walls, the elaborate gate systems, and the House of David stele are material realities to contend with. We continue to find specific micro-artifacts, such as clay seal impressions bearing the names of King Hezekiah and the prophet Isaiah, found in contexts that align with the written record. They act as persistent nodes of intersection between the dirt and the text. Rigorous historical geography requires a synthesis of both disciplines. The layers of the tell provide the physical boundaries of history, while the texts provide its voices. Neither can be allowed to artificially erase the other.